The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Yes, coming to you cordless once again, everybody. I am not centered on the screen. Oh my God. What the heck? What's going on? Let me move around. It's 9 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States, 6 p.m. on the West Coast, 8 a.m. in Singapore, 12 noon in Sydney, Australia, and here where I'm sitting in Northeast Minneapolis, it's 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time. It's Monday night, February 3rd, 2025, and we are live. I'm Jim Peters. Welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night. This is episode number 198, which means in two shows, that would be Friday, we're going to have our 200th episode. I'm trying to put something together for that. I am putting something together for that, but I can't tell you who's going to be on yet so far. Big time shoe. So tonight we do not have a guest. Please feel free to call in. I wanted to mention this too. So if you have casually come upon the show, we used to do this show 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday. Now we're doing it 3 nights a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I want to see how the Friday shows go. And I never want to do Friday because I want to take a 3-day weekend, but who am I fooling? I'm old and no one wants to talk to me. So I am usually home on Friday nights. And if I'm not, we will tape an episode on Thursday afternoon, which means you can't call in, but so what? But you can call in now. The number is 325-CALL-JIM. That's 325-225-5546. You can also send me a text. I got a monitor off the side, got the text in real time. That number is 408-458-5088. I should also mention, too, that you can call the 325-CALL-JIM number when we're off the air. You can leave a voicemail. You got 2 minutes. We used to be able to do that on our text line. We moved that. So now you do that. It's the same number to call in, whether we're here or not. And if you leave a message and you're a little kind of entertaining, kind of sort of, I might play it on the air. Who knows? So we got it going on. That's what we got. So there's lots of news today. And the thing is, this is not a news program. I've said this many times. We do commentary here. But the interesting thing about doing it 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so we have 2 days between doing the shows, and it's plenty of time not only to collect stuff that's going on, but also to ruminate it on it too. I'm so far very pleased with this new schedule. I think it's going to work out great. It already has. So let me tell you what's going on today. And we put this in the description for the show description that we load up in the afternoon. And literally, this happened like 20 minutes after we did that. And that is, so everyone's bitching and moaning about the tariffs that Trump wanted to impose on Mexico and Canada. And he did that. They started at midnight. I assume that's Eastern time. They started at midnight. 15 hours later, both Mexico and Canada caved. So, we've talked about this on the show before. I'm not the only one who've talked about it. We're on the last Monday, the month in review panel. We're talking about it. How come no one gets the fact that these are negotiating positions? And I understand there's an editorial in the New York Post today that said, well, you're kind of playing high stakes poker because you're forced to go through with it if they don't cave. And that's true, but it's not like the world won't end. I understand for a few people there might be, even Trump has acknowledged this, there might be some short-term pain, but this is nothing like spending $1 zillion you don't have and printing useless money and then getting racked with inflation for years and years. No, these are short-term things. Not only that, you can always rescind it, but the problem with that is you don't want to rescind a tariff that you've threatened, because if you do that, then everyone knows you're an easy mark and that you'll fold yourself. So that's what Trump was doing. He didn't get the results he wanted from Mexico and Canada, and he said, "Well, midnight the tariffs start, and they actually did start for about it wasn't even a day, 15 hours, I think it was. They ran, and yeah, and then both Mexico and Canada called them and said, we'd like to talk to you. Yeah, okay, fine, all right, boomer, you can do that. You can talk to the big orange man, you know." I don't understand why people get the only thing I can think of is that people get their undies in a bundle about this because they literally don't get what's going on. And I don't put that past people. I've come to the conclusion I've been dealing with the press and various uh, manifestations for 40 years. These people are not smart. They think they are. And that's actually the problem. The problem isn't that they're not bright. The problem is that they think they're bright and they aren't. That's the problem. And so, everyone's saying, "Oh my God, it's like the press." Chuck Schumer gets on TV this morning. This is before Mexico and Canada caved, and he's holding up a Corona beer and an avocado and says, "You won't be able to get these." You're wrong, Chuck. And here's the deal: even if the tariffs had been left in place, all right, you'd still be able to get them. It's not that stuff's going to go away. It might cost more, but it's not going to go away. It's I don't. And not only that, I mean, Trump's record on these things working is incredibly good. I don't, so I don't. I got a text from a liberal friend of mine today who called the current government a shit show, and I'm thinking, well, this is really interesting because it's not that we're now arguing about ideology or political philosophy or even what's good for the human condition. We're now arguing about actually what works. That's the thing. Oh, it's chaos. Yeah, well, it's chaos. Big freaking deal. Is it working or not? And this is exactly what Americans voted for. People look back on the first Trump term and said, for all that noise, and most of it was generated, well, I shouldn't say not all of it. Some of it was generated by Trump himself. Some of it was. For all that noise, things were pretty good. And that's actually the deal. And so it's like I want to quote. I don't know who said this. The quote about um, the big orange bad man, but it's like Trump may be an asshole, but he's our asshole. It's true. He is. He's working for us. So okay. I mean, so far, it's pretty amazing what they've gotten done, and what's going forward and continues to get done. Now, meanwhile, they're trying to dismantle. He's got Elon Musk on the DOGE thing, the Department of Government Efficiency, trying to basically dismantle the deep state. And this is not what's going on here is not pleasant because now Trump's or Elon's Musk's life is being threatened. Matter of fact, they're like the US Aid thing, that organization, which was just really, really shady and takes up a shitload of money. I mean, it's unbelievable. Their budget is bigger than the State Department, considerably so. And as far as anybody can tell, this organization exists primarily to give contracts to Democrat operatives. They say they're giving foreign aid to foreign countries, and they do that, but that's not where most of the money goes. Most of the money goes in the pockets of the people who are administrating this stuff. I mean, it is. Elon Musk described this organization as evil, and as far as I can tell, I think he's right. Now the people in this organization are threatening the lives of the Doge employees. I don't understand how Doge is set up. I mean, it's like because Elon Musk is obviously not elected, and he's not a cabinet or official position, although I assume he's been hired as a contractor somehow. I don't think he's getting paid. But I mean, I'm sure they have to pay him $1 to make it official or whatever. So I don't know how this department is set up, but apparently they do have employees now. So so they basically want to shut this US aid thing down. And so today they um, suspended or furloughed most, if not all, the employees. I think that's what happened. But and then on top of that, then you look at this too. Now this is kind of funny. Uh, another place that your money goes where you probably don't want it to do, or actually, it goes the other direction. Big pharma pays U.S. congressmen and senators, elected representatives, enormous amounts of money in lobbying fees. Now, this is over the course of, I think, 24 years, or I think, was it 24 years? Yeah, I think since 2000. Since 2000, Bernie Sanders' campaign committee has been paid $23 million by the big four pharma companies. 24 million. Now you have to understand about campaign finance stuff. The candidate can take that money for his own use. It has to be documented, but they can. They can actually. So that $24 million, if he doesn't need it for his campaign, he can pocket it. And so that's how lobbying in America works, folks. There you go. $23 million in 24 years. So you can do the math. It's about $900,000 a year or something like that. And then you wonder why Bernie, a committed communist, has 3 houses. I'd like 3 houses. I'm not going to take that money though, because it's dirty. That's why. So this has happened. And then Bernie's, there's that thing, and we even made a joke about it on a show description on Friday. There's that image of Bernie talking to RFK Jr. during his confirmation hearing, and he's pointing to these onesies that some organization is selling. Not actually on behalf of RFK's, not on his behalf, but it's an organization he started, I guess. And he's saying, are you supportive of these onesies? These people are yelling at this guy. And I have to bring this up because the timing on this could not be more prescient. Everyone's concerned about the fact that RFK has said that vaccines might cause autism, even though supposedly, and you wait for it now, supposedly there's no evidence that that's ever been shown that this happens. Just this weekend, a major study came out, and I can't remember who did it, but it is a major study that says that people who have had kids who have had more vaccines are statistically more likely to get autism by a significant amount. Now, I didn't know this. For example, when I was in school 1 million years ago, there were 3 common vaccines. It was tetanus, smallpox, and tuberculosis. Those are the vaccines we got in school. There were 3 of them. Now there's 11. There's 11 standard vaccines that most kids in grade school in the United States get. The implication of this study, they didn't actually conclude this, but the clear implication was that it may not be any one vaccine that causes autism, but the combination of them maybe does, or some combination, maybe some kids are more likely to get autism. And this, you're talking about Jenny McCarthy. I mean, she's talked about this forever, and it's her experience. So I can't, I can't discount it. She said her little boy went off to grade school and got a vaccine, and when he came home, he was never the same ever again. But maybe the problem is that these studies of this have focused it. Well, did that vaccine give that kid autism? Well, no, we test over and over and over again, it doesn't. But maybe that vaccine on top of the 8, 9, 10, or 10 more these already had, maybe that's the final factor, the last straw. Maybe all of them together, somehow they react and cause autism. And apparently no one's ever tested for that. Isn't that amazing? So you got kids getting 11 shots every year of something. I don't even know what they are. I'm sure COVID's now one of them or something like that. And which is stupid because kids were the least likely people. I mean, seriously, I think for the kid, I'm pulling this statistic out of my butt, but I know that it may not be literally accurate, but I know I'm in the ballpark. And that is for kids under the age of 10, I think less than 100 kids died during the COVID pandemic. There was no danger for children. There was actually no danger for middle-aged adults. I've talked about this before. We started these shows at Conk News in 2020, and it originally started Conk News is a new news aggregator, and they're our sponsor, and I was the editor-in-chief there, and we started doing video shows daily. They were about 15 minutes. They were pretty quick, and it was a news program. I did comment on the news because I can't not, but we were reporting the news, and so we started that show in April of 2020, and for those of you who are keeping score, for all practical purposes, the COVID pandemic started on Saturday, March 10th, 2020, that weekend. And I know that specifically because I was supposed to go to a fundraiser for something and they very suddenly canceled it, like literally a few hours at a time. And it turns out that happened all across the country. That Saturday is when things started to shut down. So we started the shows on Calling News about a month later. And so I'm compiling these statistics and I'm using the government's own figures. I'm going to the CDC website and the state of Minnesota website. We're in Minneapolis, so I'm checking out local and national. And I'm compiling these figures, and it was plainly obvious after only about 4 or 5 weeks of doing this that the only people who were really in danger and dying from COVID were the old and the sick, like people over 70 or people who were seriously ill, and maybe not over 70, but people who are seriously ill, and especially people who are both. And so what I concluded and what I said at that time, which is like it's 5 years ago now, what I said was that there's 4 aspects to the pandemic. If you're over 70, COVID's looking for you and you need to get some shots or take care of something because COVID will kill you. If you're between 50 and 70, you got a judgment call to make, depending on your health, depending on all sorts of factors. But that's a gray area. If you're under 50, there was no pandemic. There wasn't. And if you were under 20, it's like you were immune basically for all practical purposes. I'm talking statistically now. I'm not saying, and this is the thing with these shots, with these vaccines and autism. The problem is that the kids who react to this, there's very few of them. So, but actually, let me see if I can bring this study up. I want to see who did it. I can't remember. Oh well, hold on. No, I can't find it. I'm not gonna waste my time while you're watching. But at any rate, they're statistically very small. But this study concluded that if you had something like more than 5 vaccines of various types, or I don't know what it was, you were 170% more likely to get autism from a vaccination shot, or along with it. You know, so that one vaccine isn't really, like I said, this is the implication from the study. They have not bothered. They don't have enough scientific evidence to conclude this yet. But the implication is it's the cumulative nature of these vaccines that causes autism, not any one of them. So in other words, the people are saying that any one vaccine causes autism. They were right, but that's not the problem. So can you handle 2 things in your head at one time? I bet you can. That's the reason you're watching the show. That's the reason. So yeah, it's like, and so Bernie Sanders and all these people, they're railing RFK Jr. about the fact that he will not say that vaccines cause autism, and then the very next day the study comes out. I mean, the timing was it's almost creepy how the timing was, And now I don't. It's if any of Trump's cabinet nominees don't get confirmed, RFK is probably going to be on the top of that list, but I have the feeling he's going to. Matter of fact, and I don't even remember this woman's name. It's the woman who's been nominated as Secretary of Labor, and Jennifer Oliver Connell on Red State. She's been on this show and she's talked about this. Excuse me. This woman is apparently a real rhino. And I think there's and now articles are starting to come out pointing that out. Jennifer's written a few. I've read one on the New York Post, a couple other places. I have the feeling this woman will not get confirmed. I can't remember her name. She has a double compound name with a hyphen in it. I cannot remember her name. But she's nomination for Secretary of Labor. And Jennifer's been railing about this because she says of all of Trump's nominees, this is the only one who shouldn't go through, because apparently she's basically just in the pocket of big labor, of the labor unions, which is the thing that if you want to disrupt stuff, that's not what you want. So anyway, so it's interesting. I think RFK is going to squeak by. It's going to be really close, but I think he will. So meanwhile, and speaking of all this stuff that's going on with the DOGE stuff, there's a protest. There was actually protests in several cities over the weekend, but the one in downtown LA was the one that got all the attention because it was the biggest. Where a bunch of anti-Trump deportation protesters are waving Mexican flags, and they stopped the LA 101 freeway downtown both directions. And everyone's saying, I read this, and so this is really true. So they're waving Mexican flags. And first of all, I'm thinking, I think this must have been coordinated somehow, because I don't know if you can get a hold of that many Mexican flags in the United States. I don't know if you can, but anyway, somebody said, well, if you really like Mexico that much, why don't you go back? Which is like really true. Why don't you? You know? But the thing that's I find amazing about this, and I'm going to get this just a second, and as I've talked about this before, the latest polls, two of them by Quinnipiac and CNN, have indicated that literally only 6% of the public doesn't want anybody deported. The other people are split about half and half on whether they want everybody deported or just the criminals. And so I understand that's another discussion you can have, but only 6% of the public want no one deported at all. And it's like, so, okay. And I'm starting to think that basically, if you want to know who's in the minority position on any issue, look at who protests. It's the people who are in the minority who are protesting. The people in the, and so, yeah, I don't know who they thought they were going to convince blocking traffic. That's not a really good way to make friends and influence people. It isn't, especially on a freeway, but no, and that's what they decided. Now, meanwhile to that, this last weekend, the Democratic Party elected new leadership. That's for the Democratic National Committee. The guy who is now the chairman who won it is Ken Martin, and he's from Minnesota here. He's the head of in Minnesota, the Democratic Party is officially called the Democratic Farmer Labor Party because that goes back to like the 1940s. But he's a head of the Democratic Party here in Minnesota, and he won the national slot. The person who won second, who is the vice chair, is David Hogg. And do you remember who David Hogg is? He was like kid who escaped the Parkway shootings. Oh God, am I going to forget where Parkway is? God Almighty. Anyway, yeah, he was involved in that. And so he's been an activist ever since. Mostly he's anti-Second Amendment. But the real amazing thing is he's 25 years old. And as far as anybody can tell, he's never held a job of any kind. And he just graduated from Harvard, where he got in with seriously substandard academic scores because the Democratic Party likes him. I'm sure that's the reason he got in. And everyone's making the same conclusion. And he has no business running anything. And so this whole election they had this weekend at the Democratic National Committee, the whole thing was rife with chaos. They had a thing. The previous leader or the current leader, the guy who was giving up a seat, had to come out with he had to explain some really convoluted rules about the fact that if they didn't have a non-binary candidate, they had to make certain there were so many genders. It was just like unbelievable. And some Democratic operative tweeted, he said, "My God, we're cooked." That was actually what his tweet said. And it's like they haven't learned a thing. I mean, it's unbelievable. And yeah, if you're a Republican, if you're a conservative, God bless you guys. Keep on going. I've said this before. I think the conservatives are now going to, the Republicans are going to dominate politics in America for a whole generation. That's what I think. Because it's not just that these people just lost. They don't understand why they lost. They don't understand how to fix it. They don't. They think their problem is messaging. They think what we want to do is good and worthy. It's we haven't convinced the public of this. And the public says, no, I don't think so. That's what the public says. So they're downtown LA. They're waving around these flags about stuff that virtually nobody agrees with them on. I just find it unbelievable. And like, look around. One of the reasons I decided to get into this business. Um, oh, hold on. Our picture's frozen. What happened here? Hold on just a second. Hello? Yeah, okay. Alrighty. I don't understand what's going. All right. That's not good. That's not good. Uh, what do I do here? Hold on. I'm gonna try to fix this. Well, we might be doing radio here for a little while. I don't exactly know what's going on here, folks. And actually, we're at 198th show. This has never happened before. So I don't know what's going on here at all. So my apologies. Our picture's frozen. I'm gonna keep on talking because that's what I do. Uh One of the reasons I got into this, what I was saying is that I seem to have a my pulse on the zeitgeist of the public. Jimmy Fallon, Fox News talks about that too. And I wasn't until I got way older that I realized very few people do. I don't understand why that is. I called the election almost perfectly. Matter of fact, the only thing I really got wrong is I thought Kamala Harris was going to win Arizona. That's it. That's the only thing really. And I know other people called it virtually perfectly too. My friend Mark Tapscott from the Epoch Times, the congressional correspondent there, he was on the show, and we a couple. He was on, I think, a week before the election, and we traded notes and we agreed almost perfectly with each other, you know? And so, yeah, we were both right. And I don't see how that, like, why don't you understand what is the public wants? I mean, it's very simple. What the Republicans are doing right now is a very simple thing. Find out what the public wants, and assuming the public isn't freaking crazy, and they usually aren't, just do it. Get some results. That it's really simple. The Biden administration, for all the talk about their incompetency and their ideological BS and all that stuff, it would have went much better for them if they'd simply accomplished something that people wanted, and they didn't. Almost everything they did, nobody really, the majority of Americans didn't care about. Pronouns, transgender stuff. And the thing about the transgender community is basically getting militant at this point because they can't seem to handle the fact that nobody, it's not that nobody cares about them. Nobody cares about the issue much either way. We don't care. I don't care. You want to wear a dress and go to work? Go right ahead. I really don't care. I do care about you being in women's sports because you're infringing on someone else's rights. I do care about that. But other than that, I don't care what you do. And the gender quote unquote gender affirming care for minors, that's out too. Totally. You got to wait till you're a legal adult to figure out what you want to do, because people, especially kids, change their mind, and everyone's saying, "Oh my God," he's like, that makes you like racist or something. I don't know, but no, everyone. That's the problem. Everybody saw this, and it's like they were saying, "No, don't look at what's going on. The problem's you." And sooner or later, Americans look at you and say, "No, no, it isn't. We're not the problem. No, you're the problem." So I don't know what to do about this. About the fact we have this frozen picture here, I have no idea. Um, I can't. It's hard. It's very difficult for me to restart the show, so I can't do that. So, any rate, I tell you what, we're gonna play a commercial, and we'll see what happens. Okay, here we go. From Fox News. All right, folks. I don't know what's going on here, but we got a problem. We got a video problem, and I think I'm going to end the show a little early because, yeah, figure out what's going on here. Because this is the 198th show. This has never happened before, so I got to figure out what's going on because it's not good. Okay, so look, we're going to call in the evening tonight. Uh, Good night, Esperanza. Good night, Uncle Donnie. Good night to you, wherever you are. We'll be back on Wednesday, and I'll have this problem fixed. Thank you and good night.